everyone! In this video, I'd like to show you what my life has been like as a choral conductor during the pandemic. From online rehearsals to virtual concerts to in-person practices and pre-recorded concerts, my motto has been, let's make the best of it. Let's get started. Today, I would like to talk to you about how I preserved my school's choral community in spite of the pandemic. So before we were able to return to in-person rehearsals, which I'll describe later, I held online rehearsals for about 3 months and put together a short virtual concert. So let me start with what our final products looks like first. To produce this, the students all individually recorded themselves singing at home, and then they would send me the video, and then I would collect all the videos and then edited them in Final Cut Pro and GarageBand and created this virtual choir performance. Now, in order to hold a virtual concert, we needed to have virtual choir rehearsals. So let me give you just a little demonstration of what that looks like. All right, so today what we'll do, guys, is a few things. We'll first, of course, warm up. Then we're going to work on the Bird's Lullaby, measure 1 through 28, and then Baba Yetu, only sections B and C. I want us to be really mindful about Baba Yetu that is written in Swahili. So let's make sure that we're not, that we're respectful of the language and not butchering it. And then at the end, I just want to do a quick review, see if there's any issues. Just as a focus today, I really want to just focus on the rhythmic precision, both in Baba Yetu and the Bird's Lullaby, and just enunciation, especially because of that language, okay? Just like normal rehearsals, we start our online rehearsals with a warm-up. What you can see is that all the mics, except for mine, are muted as we would have too many audio issues otherwise. However, if the singers want to ask a question, they can freely unmute their mic and talk. All the cameras are turned on during our rehearsals, and I remind my singers to practice good vocal technique even when practicing at home. All right, let's go straight into Bird's Lullaby. A few things to remember about the Bird's Lullaby. There are a lot of syncopations in this piece, so let's make sure that, there we go. Make sure that when we are singing it, that we really are precise with the rhythm, okay? We're gonna first just rhythmically speak the melody, like the melody that everybody has. So right now you're gonna be looking into soprano 1, and then we're just gonna rhythmically speak measures 21 to 28. I really want us to be very mindful and precise on that. So here it is. I like to create a presentation with the plan for the rehearsal, as it can be easier for some singers to follow the rehearsal that way. I also use my iPad to join the online rehearsal to share the music score with my singers. That way, if I want to explain something from the score, they can see it directly in front of them. I use Fourscore app on my iPad, which allows me to annotate directly into the score. This helps especially my younger singers to become better at reading the score and also marking their music. Throughout the practice, I continue reminding my singers to use good vocal technique, even if we're singing at home wearing our pajamas. I try to use many different ways for my singers to learn their music, like we read the lyrics rhythmically. 2, 1, and singing to a cedars, the twilight is creeping. 1, with shadowy garments, the wilderness through. If there's some more difficult rhythms, we also practice clapping those rhythms first with my students and counting them so that it's easier for them to sing it later. And a 3, E, and 4. Let's try to clap this rhythm together because we are all going to sing this rhythm so many times to the piece. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and a 3, E, a 4 and 1. We also often sight read music using solfege syllables. You're gonna try and sing this on your own. What I'm gonna do, I'll need to measure, let's just go to measure 17, 18, 19, okay? And while you're singing with the solfege, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna give you the beat here, okay? I'm not gonna play this for you. Ooh, and really be mindful about your ooh. 1, 2, 3, and ooh. I also ask my strong singers or sectional leaders to help with sectional rehearsals. So can alto 2 go together, alto 1 go together, soprano 2, and then soprano 1, I'm gonna help you out here, okay? The rest of you just go into the groups, and can you come back at 504, 505, okay? The singers also practice with pre-recorded practice tracks. I recorded all your parts. And you will notice that one of yours is missing. So you'll see Bird's Lullaby, 1 through 29, no soprano 1, or no alto. So can you choose the one that doesn't have your part, that recording, okay? We finish our rehearsal with a short chat about what we did, if there was any questions, any problems that we need to work on in our next rehearsal, and then we also talk about what we will do next time. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss R.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let me give you some more context and specifics now about my experience in 2020. First, let me just explain to you what the situation looks like in Japan during COVID-19. So the state of emergency was declared and all schools were closed in March. So far, roughly 2,500 people have died, and the spread has not been as explosive in Europe, but it's still a serious crisis. And although there is very little testing, everybody wears masks since January, all the time, everywhere. There's big emphasis on 3 C's for mitigation of the virus. So this is avoid closed spaces, avoid crowded places, and avoid close contact. Now, we were lucky and fortunate that we went back to school in person in August, where everybody is wearing masks all the time, even during sport activities, singing, everything. And then all windows and doors are open all the time. Now, when schools in Japan closed, that meant that a lot of our concerts and events were abruptly canceled as well. Last year, vocal ensemble was getting ready to go to a competition in Washington, D.C. in the United States, but unfortunately, we needed to cancel it a month before we were supposed to go there. And you can imagine just how devastated the singers were, since they put so much work and time and effort into our preparation, and they sounded really, really good. And then some other events were also canceled. A week after the state of emergency was called, we were supposed to have high school choral festival. So of course, high school choir didn't do that as well. And of course, all the other concerts until the end of the year and events were all canceled. So now, despite the fact that I was also devastated and sad about it, I knew that I needed to find a way for my singers to continue singing in some shape or form, especially in the situation that we were and we are still in. So I started to brainstorm and figuring out what to do next. And I decided to continue with rehearsals, do them online, and I needed to find the best way to do it. I also thought that it would be important for my singers and the community to keep practicing and put together some sort of performance. With all the cancellations, the singers really just seemed like they didn't find much to look forward to. So I just wanted to give them a goal to work towards, to which turned out to be our virtual choir performance. And so throughout this time, I learned a lot of new things and acquired skills that I never thought that I would gain. Here are some of the highlights. The big thing for me was learning programs for audio and video editing, which was Final Cut Pro for video editing, GarageBand at first, and then Logic Pro later for audio editing. I became really good at using the Keynote as well for like animations and later creating videos for my students. I also realized during our virtual rehearsals that it's really hard for the singers to get enough help with their vocal technique. So I created videos for them that they can always, come back to and watch. And for my music students, I decided to create some review and introductory videos to practice note reading, sight reading, music theory, all that stuff. And then I also decided to create a virtual performance. And I quickly realized that there was really nothing out there. I was starting, I think, my first performance I created in March. And really there was nothing out there that would help me to create these videos. Like I was looking for tutorials, and it just took a lot of time to learn, but I did learn a ton about video and audio editing during that time. And it was extremely time consuming, and although it's hard, I decided in the end to make tutorials for my director friends here in Tokyo that could help them as well use and just create these virtual videos. So now I had all these videos, and just an idea popped into my head that maybe I don't just need to share with my students and the choir directors here, but I could share them with the wider community. So I created my YouTube channel, and it's called Mrs. Musical Pants. And now let me tell you a little bit more about my experience with virtual rehearsals. So I work with singers from age 6 up to 18-year-olds, but even if you work with older singers, these points are just as valid. Firstly, remember that all singers are required to sing with others. Because singers want to sing with others, it can be demotivating to sing on their own at home and not to hear anybody around them. It can also be hard, especially for younger singers, to listen to themselves sing because maybe they have never really done that before. Your singers might not have great conditions at home to practice and sing, especially in cities. For example, in Tokyo, apartments are really tiny. A lot of children are sharing bedrooms. Maybe, your singers are in the dorm with another, whatever that is, right? I think that's important to keep in mind. And the next point really comes back to the sense of belonging to the group. And it's important for you students and for your singers to have time to connect and bond. Set aside some time to do, play games, do bonding activities. And yeah, you can do a lot of those even online. Creating a virtual performance, as a goal is nice, but not necessary. I think that if this will stress you out too much, and if you feel like you don't have enough technical skills to be able to do something like that, see if you can find somebody else that would do that for you. Now, if you don't find somebody and you just don't feel like doing it, maybe just consider not doing it. I think that's just perfectly okay. Now, I also listed some tips here that you might find helpful while running your rehearsals. Now, these all come from my experience, so some of them might not work for you. Keep the rehearsal shorter than usually. Again, rather add time in the beginning or the end of the rehearsal just for some socialization. What we did with my vocal ensemble, even, we just met for lunchtime once, and we just ate lunch together and we just chatted, and that was really, really nice. Don't think of virtual rehearsals being the same as in person. Kind of take them as this opportunity to do things that maybe you normally don't have time to do. I did a lot of sight reading, for example, and that we sometimes just don't have enough time to work on that every rehearsal. So we did a lot of that. Involve your singers into rehearsals and, choirs on even while online. Maybe have your sectional leaders or your strong singers lead a sectional rehearsal, and you can work with a different section. You can just, they can go into a different room, like Zoom has the little split, whatever it's called. But yeah, like even on Google Meet, they can just go into their own like Google Meet and so on. Now, I think it's also important to work on vocal technique even while online. So I created the videos for my singers. Of course, that can be very time consuming. So you can always go, on YouTube, or if you have younger singers, sometimes those videos are very difficult to understand. I created mine keeping in mind that I teach, elementary, middle school, high school students. So they're pretty accessible for that. So if you want to check that out, go to my YouTube channel and use them. If your singers have hard time learning the parts, which is, very different now that they're singing on their own, create practice tracks for them. For my older singers, I just create only the melody, no lyrics. For my youngest students, I would create practice tracks with lyrics. Sometimes I would maybe even create a video for them to watch me sing, and they could sing with me. I would also create practice tracks with, let's say, all parts from the piece, and I would set the volume lower for all the other parts that the students might not need. Let's say for soprano 1, if I create a soprano 1 track, I would just set the volume high for soprano 1, and then the volume for the other parts would be soft. And then later in the practice, I would also just take soprano 1 out, and so then the singers would need to sing with the other parts. You could also have the singers record themselves while they're practicing. I think that can be difficult while we're practicing online. We don't hear our singers, so have them record themselves while they're practicing. They all have these amazing smartphones. On iPhone, you just have voice memos that they can use. There's tons of other programs too. And you can also ask your best singers to just, record themselves singing and create practice tracks with that. I think another fun way for singers to practice could be like an asynchronous practice when they're practicing with their friends. I don't know, via FaceTime, Google Meet, Zoom. There's plenty of different platforms, and that can again give them a little bit more of a sense of a belonging to, a group, and it can make it a little bit more fun. Virtual rehearsals can also be a great opportunity, I think, for choirs to become better listeners and observers. We always consider that choir rehearsals are only singing, and I think that's really important. But I think this time the singers could really learn to observe what is good singing. Find some recordings that you think are good quality recordings, have your singers watch them, listen to them, and then maybe just fill out a little questionnaire at the end or something like that. So now all these virtual practices actually wouldn't be possible but without some great technology and apps that I was using. So here they are. The first one I used a lot was GarageBand, just because I was doing all these, practice tracks, or this because my singers, most of them have either iPhones or they have Macs. They can record themselves singing in GarageBand. Soundtrap is another one that you can use for that same purpose, and also both of them work for audio editing when you're creating your virtual choirs. Voice memos, as that I just mentioned earlier, it's just a built-in app on every iPhone, and the students can, while they're practicing, they just start it, they record themselves, and then they can just send it to you through whatever platform you are using. Better Practice app and Smart Music are two basically websites. I use Better Practice app. I don't use Smart Music, but Better Practice app, basically what it is, it's a place for my students where they can find all their music. They can find the practice tracks. I can track how much they practiced, when they practiced. I can share, video recordings with them, all those things. Another one that I think is a good website and kind of program for the students to practice their sight reading is the Sight Reading Factory. It's an online platform. It is subscription based, but it's pretty cheap. So you can use that if you want your singers to be better at sight reading. Now, I feel very fortunate that from the beginning of September, we were actually allowed to resume our in-person rehearsals. And to be able to continue to do that, I'm being very precautious while running my rehearsals. So upon entering my room, everybody disinfects their hands. All singers are spaced 2 meters in each direction, like all of them. I shortened most of the rehearsals now, so we only sing for maximum 30 minutes. Normally I have an hour and a half long rehearsal, so that's quite a bit shorter. And if you have HEPA filters, that's great for that ventilation and airflow as well. So that's another thing. And then every singer is wearing a mask. And I also then wear a shield, so I look like this during my rehearsals. Now, all windows and doors are open also the whole time during the rehearsals. That means that if it's cold, it's open. If it's hot, when it was like 40 degrees here in Tokyo at the beginning of the school year, I had everything open, and we had some mosquito bites and all those things, but I want to keep my singers as safe as I can. And then if we use any instruments or the stands, when the singers use the stands, we make sure that we wipe everything off with alcohol. Now let me just give you a quick glimpse of what our in-person socially distanced rehearsals look like. We are currently getting ready for our Christmas concert that will be pre-recorded and with no audience, but we will be streaming it online. Now, although in-person rehearsals are better than online, there are definitely some challenges that I did run into. So my room is firstly not big enough to put all my 60 singers in at once with appropriate spacing. So instead, I actually created groups of 20 singers, and then I wrote down a rotation schedule when the groups are practicing. So if the singers were not practicing with me on the day, let's say if we have a rehearsal on Monday, one group would practice with me. The other two groups, they would be using the Better Practice app that I just mentioned to practice at home. So yes, this requires a lot more organization. It requires a lot more just logistical, aspect of the rehearsals. But again, I want to keep my singers as safe as possible, and I think that's the right thing to do. Yes, masks are hard to sing in. It's true, but some masks are actually easier to sing in than others. They can actually buy these or even make them. If you just go online and Google for singer's mask, you will probably find like a little tutorial how to sew it on your own. They're better because they actually have a little bit more space in the front, and it's not moving up and down while you're opening your mouth. So it's quite a bit easier. I usually actually wear a surgical mask, that like one-use mask, and I find that to be perfectly fine. Now, the worst one is definitely like the cloth mask, because every time you try to inhale, you feel like you're gonna suffocate. So that's just something to think about. Now, if your room doesn't have windows that would allow for good airflow and ventilation, I recommend moving the rehearsals outdoors. It's a pretty easy solution. It's not ideal, but better safe than sorry. Part of teaching the vocal technique is for the singers, right, to be able to see our mouth, which is really not possible with our masks on. So there are a few things that you can do. First one, I think, is a very creative one. You can create a sock puppet, and you can create a different shape of the mouths with that. Another different way could be you record a video of yourself, maybe just like, creating different vowels, and you use that in the rehearsal. Or you can create a video of yourself singing so the students can mimic that while they're practicing at home. Or also, I don't know, just get really good at explaining how to do everything and how it should feel. What I use a lot of in my singers, just even pre-pandemic, we use hand gestures a lot on how to shape. And they use, when you see some recordings of my choirs, you'll see that all the singers are using their hands a lot and moving their hands as they're singing, because it really helps them. So yeah, even though we are actually currently singing in person, we can go online at any moment. But because I'm so well prepared now, the transition is very easy and smooth, and it doesn't, feel that I wasted any of the rehearsals. So it really helps. Now, I would just like to thank you all for letting me share this experience with you today. I must say that this difficult time has forced me to kind of look at things from a different angle and be more creative about how I lead the rehearsals. There are definitely certain things that I'm doing now that I will continue doing in the future when things go back to normal. And in a way, I am happy that I was pushed to challenge myself. If you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me. Here's my email. You can also find me on Facebook or on Instagram. And I know that this has been a challenging year, but we made the best of it, I think, and I am looking forward to, you know, just a little bit normal 2021 and the time when we can all sing without masks and can stand close to each other. All right, have a great day and just keep singing.